this is a dog and pony show tonight. He's not going to lay out anything that improves the lives of Minnesotans, but he fills the space. And I think the thing I learned is we have to go into every space, because what was clear is not enough Americans believe that we as Democrats, or Vice President Harris and myself, were on their side, and we are. Our policies are popular, but that didn't resonate. And he's going to come out there tonight, and he's going to get cheers from a bunch of lapdogs that'll kiss his boots.
Trump recently attacked Biden and Harris as mentally impaired and mentally disabled, then in the same speech called for toning down the rhetoric. The orange man seems to think rules apply to everyone except himself. We've compiled a side-by-side comparison of Trump's most outrageous claims versus the actual reality, culminating in Tim Walz's brutal takedown that left Trump with no comeback. This isn't just fact-checking, it's watching someone's entire political persona collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
He negotiated the damn trade deal with them. If trade is so bad with Canada, he was the guy who signed the deal. It defies logic. But look, I think this is how he ran business. He stiffed contractors. He stiffed workers. He doesn't pay his bills. He declares bankruptcy. The one thing is, his claim that he's the business president, he is the worst possible business executive that I have ever witnessed.
You know what gets under Trump's skin more than anything? When someone catches him red-handed being a complete hypocrite. That's exactly what happened when Jimmy Kimmel decided to shine a spotlight on Trump's teleprompter tantrums. In one of his late-night monologues, Kimmel served up some delicious irony that had audiences howling. There was Trump standing at a podium, sandwiched between two very visible teleprompters, declaring with a straight face that he doesn't need teleprompters. The comedy writes itself. But this wasn't just a one-time slip of Trump's forgetful mind. It's part of a much bigger pattern where he loves to mock others for the exact same things he does himself. Remember all those times Trump ridiculed Biden and Harris for using teleprompters? He's constantly suggesting they can't string two thoughts together without electronic help. Look at them, he'll say at rallies. They can't even speak without a script. Meanwhile, Trump's own relationship with the teleprompter is like a bad marriage. He can't live with it, but he definitely can't live without it. What makes this particularly amusing is watching what happens when Trump's precious teleprompter stops working. It's like watching someone get pushed off a cliff intellectually. One minute he's delivering a somewhat coherent message, and the next, when the screen goes blank, he's suddenly rambling about windmills causing cancer or suggesting we inject bleach. The contrast between scripted Trump and unscripted Trump is like night and day, or perhaps more accurately, like a somewhat functional speaker versus a random word generator. The footage we've compiled shows just how dependent he is on these devices that he claims to hate so much. At rally after rally, there he is, eyes darting back and forth between teleprompters like he's watching an intense tennis match. Yet in the very same speeches, he'll take a break from reading the prepared text to mock his opponents for doing exactly what he's doing. The cognitive dissonance is almost impressive in its boldness. And let's talk about Trump's teleprompter fails, which have become something of a collector's item for political junkies. There's the squinting, that famous narrowed eye look when he can't quite make out the words. Then there's the misreading, turning simple words into bizarre new creations that leave everyone scratching their heads. And who could forget the complaints? The teleprompter is broken, he'll announce to the crowd, as if the technology personally betrayed him rather than revealing his dependence on it. What's truly fascinating is how this pattern of accusing others of his own shortcomings extends far beyond teleprompters. It's like some bizarre psychological projection playing out on the national stage. If Trump accuses someone of being corrupt, you can bet there's a trail of questionable dealings in his own past. If he says someone is lying, chances are he's spinning tales himself. And when he questions someone's mental fitness, well, that's when you should really start paying attention to his own behavior. This teleprompter tantrum perfectly encapsulates Trump's entire approach to politics. He creates an alternative reality where he's the only one who tells it like it is, without without scripts or preparation, while everyone else is just a puppet reading lines. But the actual reality, the one captured on video for all to see, shows something completely different. There he is, reading from teleprompters while claiming he doesn't need them, creating a contradiction so blatant it would be hilarious if it weren't coming from someone who once occupied the highest office in the land. And here's the kicker. When confronted with evidence of his teleprompter dependency, Trump typically doesn't acknowledge the contradiction. Instead, he'll change the subject, attack the messenger, or simply deny what we can all see with our own eyes. It's gaslighting on a massive scale, telling Americans not to believe what they're literally watching him do. The most powerful moment is when you see the side-by-side comparison. Trump smoothly reading prepared remarks from his teleprompter versus the wild tangents and verbal car crashes that occur when he goes off script. One minute he's delivering somewhat coherent thoughts, and the next he's meandering through word salad that would make a surrealist poet proud. No wonder his aides reportedly live in fear of teleprompter malfunctions. Speaking of raging dumpster fires, Trump's farm policy makes his teleprompter dependency look like a minor oopsie. Want to know what happens when a man who bankrupted casinos gets to play trade negotiator? Just ask the thousands of American farmers who watched their livelihoods crumble during his America First experiment. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who actually knows which end of a tractor does what, recently confronted Trump with the receipts of his agricultural disaster. Unlike Trump, who probably thinks soybeans are something you order at a fancy Manhattan restaurant, Walz has real dirt under the fingernails farming experience. And boy, did he have some uncomfortable truths to share about Trump's champion of agriculture fantasy. Remember Trump's brilliant idea to start a trade war with China? Turns out, picking fights with your biggest agricultural customer isn't the genius business move they teach at Wharton. When Trump slapped tariffs on Chinese goods, China didn't just roll over and beg for mercy. They hit back where it hurt most, targeting American farmers with retaliatory tariffs that sent crop prices into free fall. Midwest soybean farmers got absolutely clobbered. One day, they're running successful operations that had been in their families for generations, and the next, they're watching prices plummet as their biggest export market vanished overnight. These weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These were real people losing real family farms because stable genius decided to play chicken with a global superpower. The situation got so catastrophically bad that the Trump administration had to scramble to implement emergency farm bailouts. Nothing says winning quite like having to hand out billions in taxpayer money to fix a crisis you created yourself. These weren't strategic investments in agriculture. They were emergency bandages slapped on a hemorrhaging wound. Basically, Trump lit farmers' houses on fire, then expected applause when he showed up with a garden hose. What makes this especially rich is how Trump constantly brags about his supposed business acumen. This is the same financial wizard who somehow managed to bankrupt casinos, literal money printing operations where the house always wins, the same brilliant negotiator with a trail of unpaid contractors and 6 corporate bankruptcies. But sure, let's trust him to manage international trade relationships affecting millions of livelihoods. The cruel irony is that while small family farms were drowning, large agricultural corporations actually managed to weather the storm. They had the capital reserves and diversified operations to absorb the shock, and some even scooped up struggling family farms at bargain prices. So Trump's policies didn't just hurt farmers, they accelerated the corporate takeover of American agriculture, making America great again, one foreclosed family farm at a time. Walz didn't just make vague accusations, he came armed with specific data. He pointed out how farm bankruptcies skyrocketed during Trump's term, particularly in Midwest states that had voted for him. The export numbers tell the same story. Agricultural exports that had been steadily growing suddenly tanked when the trade war kicked in. Even after the so-called Phase 1 deal with China that Trump touted as a massive win, American farmers never recovered their full market share. This is the Trump playbook in action. Create a completely unnecessary crisis, implement a half-baked solution that doesn't fix the original problem, declare victory, and hope nobody looks at the actual results. It's like setting your neighbor's car on fire, spraying it with a water gun, then demanding gratitude because you saved them from total destruction. When Walz confronted Trump with these inconvenient facts, Trump's reaction was predictably Trumpian. Change the subject, attack the messenger, and repeat false claims louder than before. But the data doesn't lie. Soybean prices crashed, farm bankruptcies spiked, rural communities suffered, all because Trump thought trade wars were easy to win. The most damning part is that agricultural economists had warned precisely precisely what would happen. This wasn't some unforeseeable consequence. It was the obvious result of reckless policy implemented by someone who treats the presidency like it's just another season of a reality TV show. Except in this case, the people getting fired were multi-generation farm families losing everything they'd built. If Trump's treatment of American farmers was a tragedy, his relationship with the truth is a full-blown horror show. CNN recently put Trump's Pennsylvania rally speeches under the microscope and found something truly mind-boggling. At least 40 separate false claims about Kamala Harris in just one appearance. That's not a slip of the tongue or political exaggeration. That's a factory-level production of lies running at maximum capacity. Let's be honest, politicians stretching the truth isn't exactly breaking news, but Trump has turned fibbing into an Olympic sport where he's consistently taking home the gold medal. These aren't just little white lies or campaign trail puffery. We're talking about completely manufactured claims that collapse faster than Trump's Atlantic City casinos when you check the facts. Take his bizarre accusation that Harris didn't send anything or anyone at all to help Hurricane Helene victims. Anyone with internet access and 5 functioning brain cells can verify this is complete nonsense. Federal and state rescue efforts were deployed immediately, and North Carolina's Democratic Governor Roy Cooper publicly thanked President Biden for assistance. This isn't just Trump being Trump, it's Trump creating an alternate universe where Harris abandoned storm victims, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Then there's the whopper about Harris being the first to drop out of the 2020 Democratic primary. Fact check: 13 other candidates waved the white flag before Harris ended her campaign in December 2019. That's not an opinion or a partisan take, it's basic chronology. Among those earlier dropouts were Governor, the Mayor of New York City, and several members of Congress. Either Trump's memory is worse than a goldfish with a concussion, or he's deliberately rewriting history. But wait, there's more. The King of Chaos claimed schools are performing gender-affirming surgeries on kids without telling mom and dad. This is the political equivalent of claiming Bigfoot is teaching algebra in middle schools. There's zero evidence it's happening anywhere. Even in states where minors can legally access gender-affirming care, parental consent is mandatory. It's like Trump is playing a twisted game of how outrageous can I make this lie before people stop believing me. Harris doesn't do any interviews, declared Trump, apparently hoping nobody would remember her recent sit-down with CBS's 60 Minutes. You know, the same program Trump himself refused to appear on. It's like claiming your neighbor never mows their lawn while you're standing in your own 3-foot-tall grass jungle. The list keeps growing. Trump insists Harris wants a Supreme Court with 25 justices. She doesn't. He claims she still wants to ban fracking while ignoring her current stated position. She doesn't support a ban anymore. He twists her record as California Attorney General, suggesting she refused to prosecute child sex trafficking cases, which grossly misrepresents a debate about ballot initiative language. Every claim falls apart faster than a cheap suit in a rainstorm when exposed to basic fact-checking. What makes this particularly troubling isn't just the volume of falsehoods, but how deliberately they seem designed to create fear and confusion. When Trump claims Harris wants gender surgeries for school children without parental consent, he's not just spreading misinformation, he's deliberately trying to terrify parents. When he says she abandoned hurricane victims, he's painting her as heartless and incompetent despite evidence showing the exact opposite. Tim Walz has demonstrated a refreshingly effective approach to handling this tsunami of lies. Rather than matching Trump's bizarre rhetoric or getting dragged into the mud, Walz simply presents verifiable facts and allows the stark contrast between Trump's claims and reality to speak for itself. It's like watching someone calmly point out that the emperor isn't just naked, he's also claiming to be wearing the finest invisible suit ever made. What's perhaps most disturbing about all this isn't that Trump lies. We've known that since he insisted his inauguration crowd was bigger than Obama's, despite photographic evidence to the contrary. It's the systematic, industrial-scale nature of the deception. 40 false claims about a single opponent in one speech suggests this isn't accidental or careless. It's strategy. Trump seems to operate on the principle that if you throw enough mud, some will stick, regardless of how easily disproven each claim might be. The pattern becomes clearer with each passing rally. Trump accuses Harris of exactly what he himself is guilty of. He questions her mental acuity while struggling to complete coherent sentences. He attacks her interview avoidance while dodging tough questions himself. He criticizes her policies while offering few concrete plans of his own. It's psychological projection cranked up to 11. What makes Tim become Walz so effective against Trump is his methodical, fact-based approach. Instead of getting dragged into name-calling or emotional outbursts, Walz simply presents verifiable data that exposes the gap between Trump's words and reality. It's like watching someone bring a calculator to a shouting match. When confronted with actual numbers about trade deficits and economic policies, Trump's usual tactics fall flat. He can't intimidate statistics or bully spreadsheets into submission. The lesson here? When dealing with someone who accuses others of exactly what he's guilty of, the most devastating response isn't matching their volume. It's calmly presenting the receipts and walking away.